You're listening to the Reinvest Podcast, where each Tuesday we will show you how to reclaim, reconnect, and refocus your life by bringing you the top real estate professionals in the industry. We'll pull back the curtain so you can implement these tools and tactics to build generational wealth. Your hosts, Garrett Gatton and Seth Ciminillo. All right, guys. Well, thank you for listening in to episode number 38 of the Reinvest Podcast, where Seth and I get to show you how to maximize your life through the power of real estate investing.
It is powerful indeed. So
one might say with great power
comes great responsibility. Copyright.
Uncle Ben.
Spider-Man.
Truer words have never been said. So, no, exciting episode here today. We're going to get into another alternative commercial real estate asset class, self-storage. So we've got an awesome guy on today that we met at the Best Ever Conference, which our listeners, if you don't know what that is by now, then you haven't been listening to our podcast, because at this point we've referenced it probably a half a dozen times. But it's a great conference. You should check it out. One of many. But Andrew Leedom from Self-Storage Stewardship, we got a chance to meet. Did we meet last year, or did we just? I felt like we saw you.
I think we did cross paths last year. But
so was last year your first time at Best Ever?
That was. I went the previous year when they had the it was all virtual.
That doesn't count.
So, that was my first in person was 2 years ago, and then followed it up this past year.
You know, nice. It's funny, like if you were in the event venue space, I could totally see being like, hey, virtual, this is still going to be great value. And, well, what are you going to say? You know what I mean? You can't be like, hey, guys, we're going to do this, but it's going to suck because we all enjoy being in person, but you should come anyway and give us your money. So I heard some feedback from that. It was not the same as being in person.
Which it would be hard to compete with that anyway, so.
Oh, 100%.
Definitely not. Although I think they did the whole conference through the Hoova app, and they kept that in place, which I think that's been nice to be able to connect with the other attendees and things like that.
So you still have the networking value of being a part of the virtual conference.
Yeah, exactly. They've got the even the in-person ones now. It's easier to find people and I lost that guy's business card.
Right. Yeah. Look him up. Right.
Yeah.
So Andrew is you are the founder of Self-Storage Stewardship. Is that accurate?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. So and you're also a father. How many kids you got?
4 kids.
4 kids.
Man.
Yep.
Dad, husband, self-storage guru. No. I'm going to talk you up really big. You know what I mean? No, but it's great to have you on here. So why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about self-storage stewardship and what it is and how you got here. Where'd you come from?
Yeah, absolutely. So to start, I kind of went the traditional path of going to school for engineering. Worked as a structural engineer for 12 years, inspecting, designing bridges, buildings, waterfront structures.
Wow.
And along that process, I was never super passionate about engineering. I just did it because I liked math and it paid the bills. But along the way, as I climbed up that corporate ladder, it just was demanding more and more of me. And when the opportunity came to take another step on that ladder, I reevaluated with my wife. We talked about it and prayed. And it was at that point that I decided to pursue the commercial real estate thing. Up to that point, I had some smaller residential rentals, residential multifamily, some duplexes and a triplex, and that was working, but it was just going to take a long time to get to where I wanted to go. So that was, prior to that, I really thought the commercial space was out of reach for me. That's for the big guys.
Right.
But when that why really became strong enough, it was, I was determined to make it happen, and took a little bit of time to evaluate between self-storage, mobile home parks, and multifamily, and landed on self-storage and just dove in. I jumped into as many trainings and groups as I could, hired a coach, joined a mastermind group. And that first year, within about 5 months, I had 2 properties under contract, and the closing stretched out as a lot of them typically do. And
Right.
by the end of that first year, I was able to close on both of those and stepped aside from engineering to focus on real estate. I was doing my self-storage stuff and also worked with a local investment group for about a year, helping them with some of their projects. But since then, I've
When you
just
say you
focused.
worked with a local investment group, like
Yes.
like a real estate investing group?
Yeah, they're called Community Investment Group. They're primarily multifamily, but I was helping them on a few hotel to multifamily conversions, boat and RV development projects,
So,
and
like,
just
consulting
some other
with your
investor
engineering?
relations, some opportunity zone fund things. So,
So is that
So,
just a
yeah.
way for you to kind of practically dip your toe in some commercial real estate, or was that through your W-2 job that you were doing that?
yeah, so that was I did it through the Self-Storage Stewardship as a 1099, but we just partnered with them, and that allowed me to step away from engineering sooner, because
Nice.
both the properties I had were pretty heavy lifts, so the cash flow was going to take a little while to build up, and so yeah, I did that, and
And
now
what year was
now
that?
I'm just 100% focused on self-storage and in my properties, and looking to acquire a few more this coming year.
Yeah, I want to back up just a little bit for
Yeah,
people.
absolutely.
I think it's always I like for our listeners, and I like to understand too, some of the psychological dynamics that you were feeling at that time. You know, I didn't come from the corporate world, but we've interviewed a lot of guests, and I've talked to a lot of people who have been successful in that space, but it wasn't sustainable, you know? So what were some of the pain points when you were in your job scaling kind of the ladder as an engineer that caused you to consider real estate?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was just the I'm pretty performance driven, and just the weight of, I don't do anything halfway. So I'm fully engaged with whatever I'm doing, and so that just the work, as the responsibilities got more, as I had more people under me, more projects I'm managing, that just really weighed on me. I was really stressed out a lot, had work on my mind, even when I'm at home, waking up thinking about projects and what calculations do I still need to do? What, did I remember that? Did I remember this? And just trying to hit deadlines. So that was a part of it. And then just the time, it was working longer. The paycheck was getting bigger, which was nice, but that was, a lot of the other arenas of life were sacrificing as a result. And then as well, just that feeling trapped of the weekly grind of, it's, just how long am I going to be doing this, and really not being energized by what I was doing, but being drained.
That's we were hit him with that one that John Gordon thing that we just listened to.
Which one?
About your purpose and why we get burnt out.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, we were just listening to a podcast that Brandon Turner released with John Gordon, Better Life podcast, and we were we were debriefing on everything they were talking about, and I wrote it down because it was a quote that kind of it just stuck out to me right when I heard it. So it says, "We don't get burned out because what we do; we get burned out because we forget why we do it." And just kind of thinking of my own life as I'm doing this real estate journey. It's a lot of work, and I'm sure, you know what I mean? You felt that too, especially when you had one leg in the W-2 realm and one leg in the real estate realm. That transition is so rocky. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you're straddling a lot of responsibilities. You're taking on a lot of things, and if you forget your why, then you lose motivation. You get burned out because there's no way you can do it. And so, how was that transition for you as you were going through that? I mean, obviously you were starting to get burned out on your W-2 job and feeling trapped, but I mean, what was, when you started to really start to transition over, what were some of the changes that maybe you made personally, or how did you rectify maybe handling two responsibilities like that? Or
Yeah, I mean, just what you said, the getting your why down. I I had the opportunity, and I think the Lord just kind of opened the doors right when I was making that decision. I attended a virtual conference, and a guy, Mike Morowski, he's in the multifamily space, was there, and partner Carl Moose, and they were actually starting a coaching program that was part commercial real estate, part mindset, and working through Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich.
Mm-hmm.
And just really, a 60-day daily journals, and kind of really digging into what's your motivation and what's your why. Why did God put you here?
Right.
And so, really started it with that. But then, just, knowing, knowing the reasons I'm doing this, and for my family, and for what we want to be about, and what I wanted my life to look like, really gave me that energy. Like you were saying, I was, that year plus, I was getting up at 5 every morning and working for 2.5 hours before I went to work, and some in the evenings, and then putting in 5 to 7 hours on Saturdays. And when I think back, it's like, how did I do that? But I know how I did it, because my focus was on, this is not a 5-year thing. I'm not,
Yeah.
this isn't sustainable, but it is for the right reasons, and working towards this goal. And so, so I think that really was key. And then also, I can't go forward without just commending my wife, and the extra burdens she had during that year, with me really not being present a ton, because the time that I did have, now is dedicated towards trying to get this self-storage business going. And so she really carried all of the slack that year. And so, yeah, couldn't have done it without her, and her support and encouragement along the way.
Can I comment on that for a second?
Yeah.
I think every husband-wife team, their dynamic looks a little bit different in terms of roles and responsibilities, and, kind of the specific day-to-day. But the ones that work and that are successful, it is very much a team sport, kind of within your family and your marriage. And so, we were talking, we've got some new clients of ours that they're very active with one another in terms of being, they're flippers. They flip houses. Yep. and she does a lot of the design aesthetic and stuff. And he does a lot more of the nuts and bolts kind of execution thing. They work together. Our wives are supportive more from the standpoint of putting work in at home, so that we can go out and put effort in, to change kind of the trajectory of our family.
Exactly.
But it's all the same. I mean, it's all that like-mindedness, that oneness and purpose and mindset. And you have to have that. Or like I tell my wife, I'm like, Lydia, if we're good, if our relationship's good, I feel like I can withstand so much externally from our family.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like somebody could, bring the army, because we can, if we're good, the foundation's good, but it's that adage that a house divided cannot stand. So I think that's awesome that you honor your wife in recognizing that, and also that, you guys were able to get on the same page, because now you're in a different spot, right? You've jumped, you've left your structural engineering job behind, and you've got a few projects under your belt now to be able to go full time.
Yes.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
So let's get in. So the title of this episode is "How to Get Through the Next Recession with Self-Storage," and there's been a lot of buzz around self-storage.
Yeah.
But hopefully you can maybe pull back the curtain for us a little bit, help our listeners understand why.
And you said that you were exploring other commercial asset classes before you landed on self-storage. So why don't you talk about that? You said you looked at multifamily, you looked at mobile homes, came to self-storage.
Yep.
How did you land on self-storage? What maybe contrast, what made you decide that?
People?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, I love all three of those asset classes. I think they all fit within that recession resistant bucket. As far as the supply and demand metric, we're always going to need housing. So, I like the multifamily space. But really, when it came down to the commercial side and me transitioning from my job, the commercial multifamily space is much more institutionalized than self-storage, although self-storage is getting there. And so you're dealing with a lot of big players, and now you can get in kind of the slow and gradual if you're, do the 8 unit, do the 16 unit, a lot of the stuff that people aren't willing to do, but the economies of scale are a lot more challenging there as well. And so, the tenants and toilets, all of that, was just not something that I saw as being viable for me with where I was at with my work and the demands. And so, I invest passively in multifamily stuff, but I leave the operations to the folks who have the teams and systems already built.
Wow, what a sucker those people are.
Yeah.
The multifamily operators. Yeah.
Hey, there's great teams out there, and I think it's a great asset class, and there's such a shortage in housing that it's going to be a great place for investments. And along the similar lines, the mobile home park, I think that the demand for that is even greater. The affordable housing is, the demand is just through the roof. The problems, what kind of led me away from mobile home park was really the fact that a lot of the options were cut off the table because there's very few municipalities in the country that are allowing new development or allowing expansion, all of those types of things. That there's 50 some thousand existing facilities, so they're there, you can buy them. But I also saw, mobile home parks are just as hot as self-storage, and so the competition is fierce. You've got consolidation happening in those markets too. There still are a lot of opportunities to deal with mom and pops, so I like that. Love the fact that you're able to own the land, own the utilities, but lease the not have the actual homes, so your liability becomes less, your maintenance
less.
Responsibilities become less. But really it came down to that. I wanted an asset class that was going to grow with the population. And so self-storage fit that. Self-storage is an asset class that, the demand is there. The demand is growing, especially among millennials and, younger generations that are utilizing storage. And so the trend lines are there as far as growing percentage of the population, but it's also tracking with population growth. And so you can really target markets that are growing, and it can support the new development aspect of the industry with bringing stuff in. And so the other thing, as far as the recession resistant, it's it not only holds, but I mean, COVID was, there's nothing like it in the industry before. The industry exploded during COVID. And it's one of those things that when the economy's booming, people are buying stuff. They need places to put it. When it's during a recession, people are downsizing and they don't want to get rid of their stuff, so they're putting it into storage. So they may have to go from a 3-bedroom to a 2-bedroom, and they compensate by getting a storage unit. So the asset class itself is I like, but also something that I could do while working, able to run the facilities remotely, which was a huge thing for me because it broadens where I can look. And so,
how big is the remote that you use to run them?
Okay.
Sorry, dad joke.
Okay. Who let this guy in here?
No, that's interesting. Do you think there's a correlation between millennials wanting to be more renter-based than home ownership, and does that coincide with some of the trends with self-storage? I'm just thinking rationally, if people want to rent, generically speaking, rentals have fewer storage options. So people are relying on some kind of a supplemental place to store their crap if they're not going to buy a house where you have a garage.
Hey, it's good stuff. Okay. We got to store the stuff and never come back for it.
Forget that you have it. Dude, I've seen those TV shows
Like
where
what
Storage Wars.
Storage Wars.
But they're like in like Orange County. So you're going to find like these really beautiful stuff. And I guarantee you open up some of the storage, probably find a body or something like that.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a lot that don't make it on that show.
So is that a part of kind of the mindset? Is the general populace is moving more towards kind of a renter nation versus home ownership?
That definitely plays into it, for sure, as well as just the housing market in general. The spring lease up is the hot time for self-storage, just because there's more movement in the in the rental and the residential market. People are moving more, and so you've got kind of two buckets of clients, of customers. You've got the ones that are using it for long-term storage, or end up using it. I'm just going to put my stuff there for 3 months, but end up in there for a year.
Right.
And then you've got people that are utilizing it because, hey, I just sold my house. We're in between. I've got a needed place to put the stuff. So, that part of that bucket is a constant flux. You've got people coming and going, and then you've got your base that's kind of always there. So the movement part of it is very reflective of the housing market and people moving, and the influx and movement of people.
I've talked to some operators of self-storage facilities, and they almost speak about it like it's a commodity in terms of the pricing.
Yes.
So like, what's the strat with fluctuating prices at certain times in the year to lease stuff up? And do you want to be at the top of the market? Do you want to leave some meat on the bone? Do you want to be 100% full? Do you want occupancy or like vacancy?
Yep. That's a good question. It is very, very much more of a commodity that you're bringing to the market. And so, in terms of that, it's, you want to have supply for your customers. So if you're 100% full and somebody needs a 5x5 or needs a 10x10 to put their stuff in for that move that they're taking, and you don't have anything available, you're not really serving the market. And so, the goal is to have at least one of every unit size available. If you're 100% full, you're bumping rates. And it is very much of a dynamic pricing model, similar to hotels or airlines. People are tracking airline tickets all the time. You can see it. It's going up one day, down the next. And that's just based on supply demand. And self-storage is very similar, where and that's really a distinguishing mark between the REITs and the mom and pops. The REITs are, they've got their systems dialed in. I mean, they'll have 2 facilities a mile apart and have a particular unit 2 or 3 times the rent at one, just because they're driving the rates based on availability and things.
Wow.
And so, their things are changing daily, if not hourly. I'm not on it that much, but I try to keep pace of the market and am adjusting things accordingly.
Do you use some sort of software to help with that pricing model, or is it just you have it all up on a spreadsheet and you're looking at your occupancies and you're kind of making the calls on when to start ticking up rents? Or
I'm doing it myself. There's some softwares out there that do it. Store Edge is one that you can put in your criteria based on occupancy, that, hey, when it hits 90%, I want you to raise rates X percent. And when it hits 95, raise it this much percent. You can set those so it's automatic. There's also some other software that helps you with that. But as far as the software goes, self-storage is really behind the times. COVID forced things to accelerate. And so it's moving in the right direction, but there's still a lot of room there. And I think that those pricing models are a big part of what folks are looking for now.
So how do you compete in an asset class that's got lots of investors who are hungry for it?
I think that, that's a good question. There's, it's really consistency, and building relationships. You're
I
building
knew he was gonna say
relationships
that.
with brokers, you're building relationships with owners.
That's what it is with multifamily.
Yeah, it all comes down
Yeah.
to relationships. And if you can set yourself apart from, the other 1,000 mailers that are going out.
Well, and here's the reality of what you're saying. And pretty much everyone that's gotten on this podcast, I mean, anybody that has had any type of scale or success has all felt that. And when people are trying to break in, it's like, oh man, it's so hard. And who were we talking to the other day? They're like, it's really not hard. Who was that? Or maybe that was a podcast. I don't know. It's really not that hard, but it takes consistency.
Yeah, it's simple, not easy.
It's right. It's and for people that are just trying, they're like, oh man, I've reached out to 15 people, or I've made 15 cold calls, or I've made 100 cold calls. And really they're doing the right things. And I mean, you probably, I don't know, do you have any idea how many times it took you to get your first 2 deals? How many people you talked to? How many deals you went after?
Please don't say 2. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
That's going to make us look really bad.
No, I mean, I was analyzing probably, I don't know, 10 deals a week. And started in December, and it wasn't until May that I had one under contract.
So there's,
I mean, it was a good 5 months.
5 months
of, so I mean, it was
deals.
Probably
a couple hundred deals that you analyzed. Yeah. I mean, it just takes the consistency, and that's like the grunt work. You're like, oh, gotta analyze another 10 deals.
It's a little word called grit.
Yeah,
grit, reoccurring.
But
theme.
I would say, 2 comments as far as, you will really serve yourself well the more that you niche down. Because especially within real estate, it's so easy to get shiny object syndrome, because there's a million ways to make money in real estate.
You're talking to me.
So, so you really need to, the more that you determine what you want and what you're going for, and really be disciplined to focus on that, and not, do this for a month and then switch up to something else.
Yeah. That's a good word. And that's something that Garrett and I both struggle with. We,
Speak for yourself, man.
Yeah, right. We get our head turned when there's a single family house that looks like a good deal.
Who's trying to make a couple $1,000?
I know. And we're, we're trying to do this mobile home park thing, and we're trying to do, multifamily. So that's something that we need to get better at as we continue to go on this investment journey of really niching, carving out a section of real estate that we want to go after. So that's a good word.
You said that you were just at a mastermind conference maybe a couple weeks ago?
Yep. Maybe last week. Yeah. Week and a half ago.
Dallas, Texas, which, little plug against people from Texas. They're so snarky about their state. You ever realize that? It's always like, well, everything's bigger in Texas. And you're just like, I don't care about Texas. They almost treat it like it's a country.
Adam, you're not from Texas, right?
No, I'm not.
That's funny. So give us
I actually made the mistake of wearing my Eagles hat without even realizing it.
So, Cowboys versus
I was told that
Patriots.
very quickly.
They're like, take that off. And it's open carry down there. I mean, people will just holster up. You never know when someone's going to. Nah, they're good people. Yeah. Just arrogant. But no, I'm just kidding. What are some takeaways from your mastermind group, the conference there? Because it was specifically for self-storage. Was it people talking about maybe changes in the industry? Was it just fundamentals of how to build your business? What stuck out to you?
Yeah, I'd say this group is it's a lot closer knit. It's probably about 50 of us, and we meet twice a year. Go over. We dig into some of the nuts and bolts of storage, some of the best practices amongst ourselves, some the marketing side, the buying side, the operating side. But probably about half of it is more on the lifestyle side, and the why, and the how we're building our business as well. And so that's always really helpful, as well as just being able to have some time to step away from your business and to work on it and kind of make those goals for the next 6 months. Outside of the day to day.
Did you say the guy that spearheads that, his name is Mike Wazowski?
His name is Mike.
What's his last name?
Mike Wagner.
Wagner. I don't know Wazowski. I live my life in Pixar movies. I've got 5 kids, so that's all I know are Pixar references. But yeah. So what were some of the key takeaways in terms of whether it was a lifestyle thing, sharpening your why? What did you walk away from with that?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we did was it was just an exercise in dreaming. It was just walking through just the different spheres of life and just allowing yourself to dream and separating it from a goal. Not thinking that you're going to have to meet all these, but hey, let's just open up the possibilities and just dream. And another one was just about that relationship thing. One of the guys spoke about the value of relationships, and he gave this analogy of the fact that like we're all like candles, right? And our light sometimes goes out and we need others around us to light us back up. And so just living every day on the lookout for who needs their candle lit. So stuff like that was really good. One of the guys spoke about just CRM process and, the niching down, getting your really targeting your audience of owners, getting it down from several thousand to, if you can get it down to, hey, I'm focused on these 300 and I'm just going to be consistent with them over the next year, 2 years. And so yeah, those were some of the takeaways.
Awesome. Yeah, that's good. We're going to move into our smaller pockets segment.
All right.
So why don't you go ahead and tell us what was one of your worst real estate deals, what happened, what went wrong, and then what did you learn from it? It could be from the self-storage side. It could be single-family, duplex, triplex side, whatever you got for us.
This is one of my favorite segments of the show, and it's not because I love to watch someone else squirm in misery, but it's like you learn your best lessons through the struggle, and I think it's because your senses are like tuned in and dialed to 11 out of a mixture of anxiety and necessity. So,
well, and I think people put podcast people on a pedestal, or like people that are successful in real estate, they're like, I'll never be as successful as that person. And it's like we all make dumb mistakes, and we've all had some crappy deals, and we've all had some trials to get to where we're at.
That's true.
And so I think it's a good example to share those things and to be able to laugh about them and move on and learn from them. Cry about them.
Yep, absolutely. No, yeah, I'll give you a 2 first. So I'll give you a 30-second one. Back when I was first starting out, just digging into bigger pockets, figuring out the real estate thing. I'll say the worst deal was one that I never did. It was a house in my neighborhood. I was on a run, noticed all the things that you look for, the tall grass, the, just
trash can
broken
sitting,
window. And it's like, oh, that'd be a good house. Did the research, even like dug into finding the owner, but never did anything with it. And a few months later, met the guy that flipped it he was doing a yard sale of clearing the house out. And, he gave me all the numbers, and that was pretty rough.
What were the margins on that? I mean, was it
he bought
substantial?
It for 110 and sold it for 340.
So decent margins.
So yeah, no, that was the first. The second one, the deal that I actually did was a duplex that I bought in a Class C area, and that probably tells you a lot about what's coming. But
where that's going.
But yeah, that was ended up just really struggling. And that one was doing fine. It was doing okay until COVID hit, and then it got really rough. So
what happened? Just with non-payment of rent, or what?
Yeah, non-payment, and then just issues with just taking care of the property. turnover was, every turnover ended up being a couple $1,000s to fix everything that was broken or all of that.
So did they try to use that kind of that waiver that tenants were filling out during COVID, the moratorium type stuff? Did they use that, or did they just stop paying and then the local laws didn't allow you to pursue anything? Or
yeah, that was it right there. And I mean, one of them told my property manager, I'm not paying because I don't have to.
love that attitude.
That's not how it works.
Did you get to tell the bank that?
What's that?
Did you tell your lender that?
Yeah, no.
Just run it up the flagpole, hey, listen, my tenant told me he's not paying because he doesn't have to, and I'm going to tell you the same thing. Unfortunately, I don't feel like the outcome would be the same. So
yeah, no. Fortunately, I am a pretty conservative underwriter, so I wasn't in too much danger, but it was still there for a while. I had both tenants not paying, but we were able to get it worked out.
Do you still have that property?
What's that?
Do you still have that property?
No, I actually, in the last 2 years, have sold all my residential multifamily. So
I was going to ask that. I was going to ask if you were planning to sell them soon, just knowing that you're full-time in self-storage.
Yep.
So that makes sense.
Was that in Virginia?
So I actually, I sold that one and rolled it into my second self-storage deal, and sold a triplex and rolled it into my first one.
Did you do that through a 1031 exchange?
I went through the 1031 exchange process for one of them. But then realized that, in order for a 1031 to really work and make sense, you've got to do it through the same tax entity. And so I was still doing stuff in my personal name on the residential side, but wanted everything to go through my holding company on the business and self-storage side. So ended up not following through with that.
Yeah. Wow. But that's awesome though. That was kind of the nest egg for you to launch into.
Yeah,
and that's the thing.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, what I walked away with was just what I needed for the down payment. So yeah, it worked out very well.
That is the fun part of real estate. You spend so much grinding on the front end. You're like, man, am I ever going to be on the seller side? And you get the paycheck or do what you did and upgrade into properties. But that's an empowering feeling. All right, man. Our last show segment's called our little nugget. So what is one practical takeaway or piece of advice for our listeners that they can implement to their real estate investing businesses?
Yeah, I would say just going with our conversation earlier, to really narrow your focus on what it is you're after in life and how it is you're going to get there, and really niche down that, determine what those things are, and just hit it hard and stay in that track. Don't get distracted. Be diligent and consistent over time, and yeah, you'll find yourself taking steps. And a lot like me, I'm an engineer, so I like to plan. I like to know the whole process up front, but the encouragement that I got, and what really helped was just knowing that you don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to take the next step. And if you're lacking confidence, connect with folks that are a few steps ahead of you, so that you can share their confidence. You don't have to work it up all yourself. So yeah,
I love people, because everybody's so different, so for me, I've got no problem taking the next step. Analysis, process, don't identify. I will step off a cliff. You know what I mean? Like, but my problem then, my struggle is, where am I going?
Yeah.
And, for somebody like yourself, you're like, well, why would I start if I don't know where I'm going? And then you're like, well, now I know where I'm going, but how am I going to get there? And when should I do it? So, everybody's different. You just got to identify what is your hang up, what's your weakness, find somebody that's better than you in that area that can challenge you, hold you accountable, and help you kind of move in that direction and address those things. But what's been one of the greatest resources for you in your real estate investing career?
Yeah, I would say the coaching and mastermind groups. Just the, one, being surrounded by people that are there to help you and there to give, and being able to give myself, and teach others that are, wherever you're at in the journey, even if you're just starting, there's somebody that's, even if it's 2 days before you are behind you on the journey. And I think it also, the commitment of being in a group that you're paying for forces accountability, especially if you're coming from a frugal mindset and, every dollar out the door means something. So if I'm paying money for this, there's no way I'm going to just sit on my hands and
you're not going to let it go to waste.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's good. You had mentioned book, podcast, website. How can people follow your guys' success?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn for social media, but my website's www.selfstoragestewardship.com. It's a mouthful, but more than happy to talk to any of your listeners that want to reach out and have questions.
Awesome. We'll put those links in the show notes. Dude, thank you so much for taking the time to unfold this, to unpack things a little bit. It's been awesome.
Yeah. And if any of our listeners are wanting to dive into self-storage or learn more about it, definitely reach out to Andrew. Tap him for some info, and he's definitely a lot further down the line than we are. Obviously, we don't invest in self-storage, but great asset class. And so thank you for sharing with us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did just developed a coaching program as well that I work one-on-one with folks that want to close on that first self-storage.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. Is that, would that be on your website yet?
We're updating the website. So yeah, it should be up there shortly, but if folks want to reach out, I'm more than happy to lay out kind of the pillars of the program and how we get you there.
That's great. Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, man. Have a great day.
All right. You guys too. Take care. Thanks for having me on.
As always, excited that you joined us on another episode of the Reinvest Podcast. If this episode added to your tool belt or left you feeling inspired, go ahead and share it with a friend. Stay tuned every Tuesday for new episodes. And if you want to get in touch with us, go to our LinkedIn or Facebook profiles and shoot us a message. Move farther, reach higher, and grow deeper. See you next time.